What? Yeah. Well, yeah, a little bit of that. Okay. Okay, so we will go back a couple lines, so we'll have continuity. There are a few lines below the middle of the page on Menvov, and the line starts with the word ha'oir, ha'oir k'meshehu. The general overall question that we're discussing here is the inyan of Havaya and Elikim. How is it possible that it says Havaya hu Elikim, that's one and the same thing? And so then we're pointing out that the truth is Havaya and Elikim are very different. Havaya is Bligvul, is the oir, and Elikim is the source of Kelim. And so in discussing this in more detail, I points out that in world, the world is created through Shem Elikim, through the Kelim. And in the world there cannot be the revelation, the oir k'moi shehu, the oir as it is unto itself. There is a gil, an oir in the world, but not oir k'moi shehu, not the purity of the oir. And we'll explain now these words. Shehu shaharein isboil yil. For we explained before on this page, when we first introduced this whole union, the ha'oir hu me'ein hamoir. That oir is of the essence, me'ein, of the aspect of moir. V'hu poshut betachlis, and therefore the oil is poshut betachlis, is completely poshut, ubli gvul, and without limit. This follows from saying that the oil is ma'in hamoir, and therefore it's poshut betachlis, and it's bli gvul. Good. What is oir? The example, the illustration that we have for oir in our experience in the physical world, which is the only thing that we can really directly relate to, is Oir HaShemesh, is the daylight. What are the qualities of daylight that is different than anything else? One thing is, on the lowest level of daylight, was the effect of daylight. That when you see an object in daylight, this is how daylight comes to us. Through daylight we can see things. When you see an object in daylight, you see it directly. That's my pshitus. You do not have to tell you, oh, I can see it. It comes to you by itself. There's no effort involved on your part to see. Why? Because it's like invisible on its own, Pshitus, without any effort on your part or on the part of the table to make you see it, or on the part of the sun to make you see it. It's just Pshitus. This is the concept of Pshitus. I mean, Pshitus is a very rich concept, but this is the first step that you can see. Pshitus means it's direct. You see it because it's visible. Not you see it because you made an effort to see it. When you learn something, you say, I understand it. How did you get to understand it? Because I learned it, and I made an effort to understand it. You don't understand it because it's understandable, therefore I understand it. It doesn't happen like this. But inside, this is exactly what happens. Even in touch, it doesn't happen like that. When you touch something, you have to sense, oh, I'm touching something. There's something there. It's not automatic. Because in touch, it's like you don't know they add something. And you question, oh, is it something there? I seem to feel something. Is there something there? Not in sight. If you see it, you see it. You see it because it's visible. Now, sight, Oir HaShemesh, exists in our world. And here we are saying that Oir is not Nizgal in the world. Oir K'mishehu. And Oir be'etzem eina lefi erech ha'olamus. Oir in essence is not lefi erech ha'olamus. Here we're saying because Oir is bli gvul. But we just now gave an example of Oir in our world. And we also explained that it also has a quality of Pshitus and a quality of bli gvul.
What's the quality of bli gvul in the Erev Shemesh?
Bli gvul, in this case, comes together with the Pshitus. Since there is no effort needed to recognize it, that means that it's there automatically. It's there bli gvul. It's not there under certain circumstances, and if you see it, you see it. That's mean bli gvul. There's no limit to its presence. Something that has a limit, then it's present. You become aware of it through its limits, through its keli, through its form. But Oir HaShemesh is there. So this is the union from bli gvul and Pshitus on a very fundamental, very low level, which exists in our world, only as a moshel to the union of Oir. So, but this seems to be, as I said, seems to be contradicting what we're saying. So, the explanation is, however, that in fact, the oir that we have here from the Shemesh, from the sun, is very much mugbal, very much limited. In what sense? The truth is, as we pointed out sometime in the past, that our ability to see as a result of light is not because of the purity of light itself. We're able to see because the light that comes here is of such low intensity that it can combine with darkness. So when we see anything, it's seeing contrast between darkness and light. We don't see light itself. Light itself has a different quality. What is the quality of light itself? The etzem ha'or. The oil that we see from the sun is an oil that emanates outside of the sun. What does outside of the sun mean? That it is in a place where there is no light, where there is darkness. So the oil that extends and is able to illuminate the darkness is not what we can call etzem ha'or. We notice it, we know it only by contrast. And what contrast means? Because it affects darkness. And we see this object because there is shade and light together. If it were all light, we wouldn't be able to see it. An intense light from all directions will completely alleviate any vision.
Step one, you say that לפי 1,000 עולמות, there is no value. Why there is no value when the light is before entering the kli and after revealed is in the kli?
Sorry?
Why there is no value the light in the light before come to the kli and after the kli reveal?
Yeah. What is the no value?
Yes, why there is no value? That's right.
No, what do you mean value? Let me explain the whole thing, and then you'll be able to attend to the questions. Okay, let me first explain the inyan. The concept of oil in a limited fashion, oil that's be'erech oilamis. What kind of oil is be'erech oilamis? That's an oil that can relate to darkness. The oil that's in the shemesh, we discussed last time, the oil that's inside the shemesh, that oil does not recognize that such a thing as darkness exists.
Destroy the darkness.
There is no darkness. It doesn't exist. Let's take it more specifically. I thought I discussed it here, but apparently it was in the other class in the sun itself is huge. It's millions of miles across. Now the space that the sun occupies is regular space. That could be with the sun or without the sun. The sun moves around. But while the sun is occupying that space, it becomes completely occupied by the sun. And during this time, it changes. Because it's occupied by the essence of light. When it is not there, when the sun leaves it or before the sun reached it, it's regular space that does not have its own light. If you want to illuminate that space, you have to bring light to it. But when the sun moves into it, the space that the sun occupies, that space has been transformed. That space does not have darkness. So that the light of the sun that comes, that can shine out and bring light, within the space of the sun, that light does not function. Because light functions only when there is darkness. But in that space, the possibility of darkness doesn't exist. We have to understand the difference between that it already has light or that there is no such thing as darkness. You understand? The sun itself is not that it illuminates the space that it occupies. It completely eliminates it. Darkness doesn't exist in the sun. It's light through and through. It's an essence of light. So that the light of the sun, okay, here's where the difficulty, the subtle thing comes in. The light of the sun that is inside the sun, like the Alter Rebbe says, surely in the sun there is also light. If the sun is able to send its light from millions of miles away, surely it can illuminate its own space, its own place. Right, for sure. But as the Rebbe says, but in its own place it's completely bottled because there is the sun itself. But let's understand what kind of light it is that's inside the sun. Since that the light that's inside the sun is inside of an entity that knows no darkness, and light reflects its source. Light is Me'ein HaMoir. Therefore, this light is also a light that knows no darkness. Because it's light, it's not the Etzem, but it's light that reflects the Etzem. Therefore, that light cannot come into the world and illuminate. What comes into the world and illuminate? The light that extends outside of the sun. That light that can already recognize, oh, there's a dark space. And I have to illuminate it. This is the light that comes to us, that can fit into the world, that can be niskabel in kelim. What is the concept of niskabel in kelim? The concept of niskabel in kelim is that it can relate to that which is not itself. The oil b'toich hashemesh cannot relate to anything that is but light. But a keli is not the light. A keli is that which receives the light, which accepts the light. In order for the light to be able to accept it in the keli, it has to be able to relate to something that is not itself. That means it has to be light, but on a limited level. This is called in Chassidus oir lehoir. There is oir be'etzem, etzem hoir. Etzem hoir is how the oir that reflects exactly the moir. At the level of oir, it reflects the moir. And oir lehoir means the light that can actually illuminate that which is not light. Bring light to that which is not light, to darkness, and combine to it.
What was the first one called?
Oir be'etzem, etzem hoir, etzem hoir. Now, one more step we have to focus in, then we understand these words completely. the etzem ha'oir exists not because of itself. It exists because of the moir, because it reflects the moir. The moir is the essence of light, and therefore there is oir that reflects it. So therefore, if you should, so to speak, look at the oir, etzem ha'oir, the oir as it is unto itself, you don't ask a question, what is its function? Because it's not made for a function. Its function is to reflect and to reveal the etzem, the moir. It has its own value for itself.
The light?
What?
The value of the light is to reveal the essence?
Yeah.
This is the old
This is all it is, ma'in moir. But when the oil extends further out into the darkness, then it acquires another function to illuminate the darkness. Oil lehoir. And this is where it is niskabel in kelim. Like all the objects that we can see as a result of the sun shining, this is like a keli for the oil. How do we see the sunshine here? Because it illuminates our world. When you go up above the atmosphere, it's perfectly dark. Why? There's no keli to catch the oil. And it's not an oil be'etzem, it's oil lehoir. And if there's no keli, you don't see it. So the concept of oilom, world, is that something was made in a place where it was not there is in essence. Something was innovated, was created. That's called creation. And the truth is, we spoke about before that in our sight, we see things, it's automatic. So we have to understand the principle of sight, that it is true that the light retains some quality of light, that it gives us ability to see things because they're visible like we said before. But we're able to see objects because we are outside of the objects and we can observe them. And we can close our eyes and not see them, and we can see them. Open our eyes and see them. If the concept of vision, of seeing, were such a thing that we could not control, there's no such thing as seeing and not seeing. We can only see, then we wouldn't have sight. The principle of sight is that we can see and not see. So there is an activity involved in our experience of sight. So it's true that the light that we have is without effort, the pshitus, right? It's visible, but it does not force us to look to see it. We don't have to make an effort, but neither are we forced to see if we can close our eyes and not see. But inside the sun, we could not see the light. Because that light we see even with closed eyes, so to speak. It's not a light that illuminates darkness, it's the etzem of light.
But in the sense that it's indirect to the kelim, so even though we said you don't have the choice not to see it, but it also it includes the ability to see.
It's what?
It's not b'erech kelim, so you couldn't actually. You wouldn't be able to see.
If it didn't go through the keli. That was-
in the sun itself.
Oh, and then
say,
sun itself, it
you
wouldn't
don't
be
have
to
the
see.
choice not to see, but at the same time,
It's-
at the same sense, because it's not directly.
That's right,
then
because
you
we
couldn't
can,
see anything.
of course, because our vision is on the world level. That's what I'm saying. This is in world, everything in world. What defines as world? Like the Alter Rebbe says, over ve'osit. Past, present, and future. In other words, there has to be an is and is not. Current and past and future. But something that does not change, that does not have a contrast, it's not part of the world. The idea of world, everything in world, has to come from, it has to be, it comes to a process of transformation. This is what we explained the other day when we spoke about this boy who never forgot his learning, that if somebody, learning in knowledge in our world consists not just to know. When do we have the experience of knowledge that we actually know something? Only if we experienced the process of getting to know it. So we got to know it, so we know how I got to know it from a state when I didn't know it, now I know it. But something that I always knew does not go into the category of knowledge. This is why Amunah, which is an inherent knowledge, it's not possible not to know, is not called knowledge. This is why it's possible for us. Everybody has Amunah, every human being, every Yid, it's impossible not to have it, but he's not conscious of it. Because he never went through the process of getting to know it. So he's not conscious of it. Even though in the fact, absolutely, yeah, everybody has it.
So it's bad when you like not work to know this.
I'm sorry?
You just have inherently not effort for this is bad. It's not good.
Right. If you know it without going through the process of knowledge, it's not bad or good. It's not knowledge.
Okay.
Right?
So it's not bad. So
But it's not knowledge. You don't really know it.
it's hisron.
It's a chisaron. Well, you're talking about that boy.
Like you have imuna, right? So like each you have imuna and he's inherent, right? And it's not knowledge. So how you you should transform the imuna to the knowledge?
No. Amunah is that which supports your knowledge. On the basis of Amunah, you're able to learn this. But Amunah itself is higher than knowledge.
The more knowledge you get, so the
The
stronger
more you reveal the Amunah. But there are people who say, no, I don't believe. Does it mean you don't believe? If you're alive, you believe. If you don't believe, you're not alive. Because you never came in contact, you never was confronted with it, you never identified what it means not to believe.
So everybody believe, but not everybody have enough knowledge to
To recognize it, to experience it. Exactly. Okay, this is what the Rebbe says over here. In the world, there is no Gilu Ha'oir K'moi Shehu De'oir in its true purity, the way it is, without a Keli. Because we explained that Oir is Mein HaMoir, Poshu B'Tachlis, V'imkein Ha'oir Be'etzem, Eino Lefiar Ha'oilams. Therefore, the Oir, in essence, is not capable to be recognized and accepted by the world. Why? Shakol oilom, because every world behechrech shehu bechinas yeshu gvul. It's imperative that world means that it is a yesh and a gvul. This is the definition of the word world, that it is a presence. And if it's a presence, it has its boundaries, its definitions. This is the meaning of the word world. V'gam oilam ho'atzilus, even oilam ho'atzilus, hainu ha'echoles de atzilus, the hecholes, the chambers that are in atzilus, harei heim b'chinas yeshu gvul. There too, they are in a state of yeshu gvul. K'meshukoseh b'sefer shel beinim b'gez hakedesh b'ramaskil ihu v'chayei echad. So he explains in Tanya, in Gerza Kedesh, in other places, that the Elam HaAtzilus, even though the Kelim, the Atzilus, are also a Lakus, but Atzilus is also a world. And the Hecholis and Atzilus that are Yeshu Gvul. The Kolshkein Oilam Habriya v'Haitzira v'Asiya. Surely the lower three worlds, Briya, Yitzira, V'Asiya, Sheheim Bechinas Gvul. The whole aspect of these worlds is the union of Gvul. O Gvul, o Bli Gvul. But when you have two things, Gvul versus Bli Gvul, Heim Be'ein Areich Klal Zelozeh. They are totally incomparable and they can totally not relate to one another.
Well, we can say this. We say that inside the infinite there is no big wall. How is infinite? It's inside the other big wall. There is no wall. How is infinite?
Why not?
Because it's infinite, can make all. So something is infinite has infinite power. It's a standard definition.
No. There are two separate things. I know what you're talking about. Two separate things. There is infinite and shleimus. Infinite is a quality of its own. Shleimus means totality, perfection. Shleimus definitely has to be able to provide for Gvul and Bli Gvul. But the Oir is Bli Gvul, just Bli Gvul. Not Shleimus. That's not Atzmus. Atzmus is Shleimus. The Oir in Sof is Oir in Sof.
That's this idea of shlemus is referring not to the word but the ma'ir, right?
And the
Because
more,
that's when we say that Bataklis, with the Pshitus, Bataklis of Pshitus is the ma'ir.
Right.
That refers to shlemus, yeah?
right. And the truth is, it's even higher than Moir, because Moir means something that gives off light. Atzmus, which is not Moir even. This is a different concept. They're not related to what we're discussing.
What kind of levush there is between the asmos and the maor? What kind of levush? How from the asmos become the maor?
and half from the Atzmus become you. Right. Let's try to focus and understand the words that are being taught to us over here. There is no way that they can be correlated or compared to one another. The presence of Gvul and the presence of Bli Gvul have totally different parameters. When we think of Bli Gvul, we automatically think in terms of a great number of Gvulim. A great number of finite entities, because we can only conceive of finite entities. You say Bli Gvul, so it's Bli Gvul, finite entities. But as the Alter Rebbe explains, we all know that it's impossible to have Bli Gvul Gvulim. So therefore, the Bli Gvul does not consist of a great number of Gvulim. Bli Gvul is in a different category of existence than Gvul. This is truly a Ruchni Zikr inyan, but we have a moshel for everything in Gashmis. First, on a simple, on a lower level. Various times you've noticed in Chassidus gives a moshel from a melech. A melech, a king who wanted to build a palace, a king who sent his prince away, all moshel of a king. Why a moshel from a king? Why not a moshel from a regular citizen? What if you and I want to build a house? Why do we have to go to moshel of a king? Like say it's the house thing that the moshel is that when a king wants to build a palace, so every design, every aspect of that house, both in its external design and its internal design, even to the extent of how many windows it's going to have, or when the windows are going to be, what kind of windows, all of that is included, is already present in his original conceptualization of desire. This is what he wants. And then it becomes defined externally. But the initial desire of I want a palace, all of the details are already included. That's what Siddur gives a motion. Harotzen includes everything. And he gives a motion from a melech. So why a melech? Why not an ordinary person? And the explanation is, an ordinary person has a gvul in his desire. And what is the gvul? An ordinary person has a limit of in his capability, his ability to perform. And therefore his desire is not the essential desire of his soul. His desire is tempered, is limited by other factors. And even that which comes from his initial desire, it's also limited. Like the Gemara says, that a person, yesh le'imona, reitza mosai. Right? You know what I'm talking about, right? Yesh le'imona, reitza mosai. Yesh le'mosayim, reitza dalat meis. And so forth. If he has dalat meis, he wants ches meis, and so forth. Right? Why, if he ultimately goes up to dalat meis, so why do we say that when yesh le'imona, reitza mosai? Yesh le'imona, reitza dalat meis. You see that ultimately, when he grows up, after he gets a Messiah, he wants Daled Meis, right? So you see that it was in his capacity to want Daled Meis. So why don't you say, but he wanted, when he had the money, he wanted Daled Meis? The answer is, at that time, he didn't have that breadth of vision. And in fact, he didn't want it. He didn't know what Daled Meis is. He had no concept of it. Therefore, his vision, his desire, his pure desire is very limited to start with. Even if he were a very wealthy person, a multi-billionaire, still he can count his money. There's $1 billion, $2 billion. It's a lot of money. And he can virtually do anything he wants, but it's not the Ein Sof of a melech. What's a melech? A melech has no measure. His capacity, his capability is not measured on the basis of wealth. What is the melech able to do? What is his capacity? Is measured on one basis, on what I want. It's not measured by any external effects. This is why Chassidus is emotional from a melech. Because it truly expresses, so to speak, a pure Rotz. A very wealthy person, even though he's Rotzen, he has a big desire, big typus, still it was created by factors. The factor that he has money. The desire of a melech is not created by factor. It is created by the very fact of who he is. This is the concept of bli gvul. Bli gvul is the pshat, that it is there not because of any external factors. It expresses the very essence of the person. A wealthy person, his wealth has made him into a big person and has developed his rotzen, but he developed the rotzen. It wasn't the essential rotzen coming straight from the soul. Therefore, it has its limits, very big limits, but it has its limits. It's based on limits. The melech is not based on limit. No, he doesn't know how to count money. He only knows what I want. This is conceptually a melech. Huh?
When it's removed, this is the example of the melech that that you say when the melech is removed. The melech is removed from the people. Also, the melech has a relation with the people.
Yeah, but the Surya has a
When
relation
it's
to it.
removed,
With the melech himself, and that's what he wants for himself. This is no limit. This is why we say that bli gvul and gvul don't meet together. Gvul can never capture bli gvul. There was a story told a man went into a ship, a yard where they sell yachts. You know what yachts is? Big private boats. And he was looking around these big yachts. And some of them are very big. I once stopped in one. And it's unbelievable how people can own such boats, really, ocean liners. He was looking around, walking from one to the other, and then he asks the attendant, he says, "How much is this?" So the attendant says to him, "Sir, I think that if you have to ask how much it is, it's not for you." So, this is just an illustration of the concept. Der Emes gesagt, a multimillionaire, multi-billionaire also has a certain thing, how much is this? Even though he may not care about this, how much. A melech doesn't ask how much it is. It's not based on that. I need it, I want it, finished.
There's it's in Baba Basra there talks about you're not allowed to tear down a shul until you build the shul first. Says there, what if you have enough money to build? Says no, because maybe something's going to happen, you're going to lose the money. There's all this with the exception of a king. A king can say Serbain. Why? Because nothing stands in the way of the will of the king. If the king wants, it gets built.
That's right. That's right. Exactly a good, very good halachic illustration of the scene. Right. So this gives us a little bit of a handle of the principle when you say Ein Sof, Ligvul. It's not very big. It's a different category. And Gvul cannot relate to it at all.
At the same time, we can create from the bleak wool.
I'm sorry?
The wool is we can create from the bleak wool. But there is something in the way that because now the wool cannot see or cannot grasp that the bleak wool is create the wool. The wool is we can create from the bleak wool.
The bleak wool creates the Gvul, it's true, but it creates the Gvul through a system of tzimtzumim. That's what it's tzimtzum.
Okay, but we need some step more because even though the big wool has Simpson is able to have infinite Simpson, we know we can wool.
Why not?
Oh, why yes? It's infinite. How the infinite can become
The infinite.
It's the same with the ray and the sun. You can put until we become dark or we become infinite. It can pass.
I
We
didn't
say
understand.
the ray of the sun is also can express Peshitus, can express out the infinite. Okay? Now it's not the same with the big bull.
But you see, the sun makes us see the book. Right? And that's limited. Able to go in the kelim. Okay, harei she'ha'oir be'etzem einoi be'yer lefi'erech ha'olamus. Wait. Harei she'ha'oir be'etzem einoi be'yer ha'olamus. Right? You have it? The line starts with the word zelozeh. It came move on. Right. And came move on. Thus, it follows the Mashe HaKelim Megalim Oir B'Ho'ilumis, that the fact that the Kelim reveal Oir in Oilumis, in world, Ein Zeh Bechinas Etzem Ha'oir. This is not the aspect of Etzem Ha'oir. I have to discuss a little more the concept which we discussed before. Kelim megalim oir b'ho'ilumus. What does it mean? The kelim are megale oir in the oilumus. The kelim are megalim kelim in the oilumus. What does it mean, Megala Oir B'Choilams? The Kelim are Kelim. This is what we originally asked the question. He said, Elakim and Avaya are two very different things. Arabically, because he says Kelim, this is Oir. But why do you say that? The Kelim are Megala Oir B'Choilams. Are Megala Oir. So they're not opposites. So this is what we hope into the discussion explain that this which you kill him Megala Oir, it's not the Etzem Oir. But I want to that we should have some kind of a handle understanding. What do you mean by Kelim Megala Oir? Kelim Megala Kelim.
If you don't have, if it's no kalim, it's still gonna call light, or it's only light when you have a kalim.
In world,
Let's say it's no world.
in world, there is no such thing as light without a Kelim. If it's light without a Kelim, then there's no light.
But but he said that this light which is not be'erech ha'oilamos, if you take the oilamos out, no oilamos, it's still gonna call it light? Or
Yeah, sure.
But it's
Oil
light.
B'Yatzim. It's still called oil. That's okay. Good question. Okay, this is in line with the same thing. What's the Kelim Megala Oil B'Choilams? If you understand that, you'll understand what is oil in itself. What do you mean it's Megala Oil B'Choilams? So the truth is that we already touched on it. We didn't really make the emphasis. But I'm going to use the same illustration used before, and I hope that we get the point. We said before that sight, the fact that when the sun shines and we see, this has a bli gvul quality. Not like touch, that we have to figure out that we're touching. But we see, it's automatic. We see because it's visible, because it's the truth. This whole concept that there is such a thing in world, that you have something that's automatic, not through an effort, is really not a keli, not a worldly thing. A worldly thing is something which comes through effort, through some kind of activity. If I want to touch this cup, I have to stretch out my hand and get it. I can't want it and it should come to me, or I should touch it by wanting it. It has to be a keli through which I touch it. Which is explainable. How does it happen? Because I stretch my hand out. But when we have, that's a phenomenon where we have oil, we have sight, and the sight is not because I stretched my hand out, because I touched it, because I went to it. I see it just because it's there. This whole phenomenon of sight, of because it's there, this is an oir quality, meaning this is a quality at the level of an essential truth, not through some kind of a experience, some kind of a keli or worldly activity. So this essentially, and of course it goes higher and higher, but this essentially is in the concept of kelim amagala oir behoilams. We can readily recognize that the world is a creation. The world has truth in it, is a true being, has a purpose. And The reason that we can readily recognize that is because of the phenomenon of sight. If it were completely dark and we knew the world only by touch, by feel, by taste, you wouldn't have an aspect of truth. You wouldn't have oir. You would only be keli. It would not reflect anything of a quality that's oir, that's higher than world. That is an essential truth, like oir. That's true in itself. So this is the meaning that kelim are really megala oir. Let's take it a little higher. When we have seichel and we understand things by a process of understanding, a kasha and a teretz, and another kasha and another teretz, and things become crystallized, and then begin to understand what this is about, and we begin to understand not just the proofs, we begin to understand the svaras, the reasoning, the idea. So even though we go through it, through a kasha and a teretz, which are all kelim, but throughout the whole process, there is also a sense of what are we talking about? What's the reality behind all of this? It's not just the keli part. The keli is megala oir. Like we always use the illustration of we teach our children to eat with a fork and a spoon and with a spoon. So at first, you teach a child you should eat with a spoon, otherwise your hands are going to get dirty, your face is going to get dirty, your clothes are going to get dirty. This is all the kelim for it. The real message of eating with a spoon is that this is the right way for a human being to eat. Not put his face into the plate, not eat with his hands, but eat with a spoon. Through this kelim, as you teach a child, use a spoon, even though you tell the child, use a spoon so you won't get dirty, but you're already giving the message, use a spoon because there is something to it. There's an oir to it. There's a right aspect to it. And as I said, the same thing is as we're learning through the kelim, to the klei haseichel. We're learning seichel through the klei haseichel. We're learning midas, saying this is a proper midas, a proper way of behavior. If you do this, you hurt somebody. Don't do it because you hurt him. So this is all the kelim of seichel, the kelim of midas. But along with that, there is a sense of the oil, of the essential truth. Don't do that because it's not the proper way to behave towards another person, not because you're hurting him, because it's just not right. But not just not right, this is a concept of oir. It's not a world thing. World, everything has a reason, has a cause and effect. This is kind of a truth that illuminates the world. This is called oir. So that's what you're saying. The oir that the kelim are megala is like a truth that kelim are megala oir, but they also conceal the oir. They conceal the essence, the etzem of the oir, and they reveal the chitzonius oir. And there's no other way. If you begin to teach your child, eat with a spoon because that's the human way to eat, he won't know what you're talking about. You can't even express that. It doesn't have any meaning.
chitzonius, or it's when you say to the child, you're gonna become dirty.
Yeah. Or whatever other levels. Okay, so let's finish these two lines. In the world there is oir, but it's only ha'orach hitzenis of the oir. Aval etzem oir hu bechinas helem bohem. But the etzem of the oir is bohelem in the kelim. Shehei ma'alimim olov. Because the kelim themselves conceal the etzem oir. Ve'ali deizeh. And as a result of the fact, shema'alimim al etzem ha'oir, they conceal the essence, the oil itself. Through that, this is how they facilitate the gilui of the chitzonis oil, so that this oil should be able to illuminate and have an effect in the world. If you give the etzem oil, you're mevatel oilus. It's not world. The whole.
The etzem oil only exists within the ma'er because the kelim, the elim is not ba'arach to the etzem oil.
The etzem oil does not only exist in the moir, but it exists by itself, outside of the moir, but not in world. In oil, mostly, like I say, the oil of Atzilus, even though the world of Atzilus has gvul, but the oil of Atzilus is mamash alakus, is believable. Even the kelim that Atzilus are believable. Certainly the oil in Keser and so forth. So there is oil. Even oil achar hatzimtzum is also oil. And the whole concept of oil, as we're trying to explain, the concept of oil is that which is true and correct, and it's truth essentially by itself, not because of some circumstance.
The kelim is elokus, and the or is blikul. How after the light come out from the keli is light wool.
Because between Atzilus, the kelim are magdil the oil, and between Atzilus and Bria there is further tzimtzum. That's called a parsa, and this is how it's possible that it should come into world, into Bria.
When we say that the lights come out from the kelis of the Atzilus, this is mean that they come out from the parsa.
They go from the kelim Atzilus. They go into a parsa.
So a parsa direct. Now it become wool.
Right. Sometime we'll have a chance in the proper place to discuss the whole union, how the kelim are what kind of oil, how the kelim are malim the oil. But this is the union that he's saying over here. This is it, gentlemen, for today.